Hey, welcome to the Behind the Badge Greene County podcast. I'm your host, Sheriff Brad Snyder, and just want to make this inaugural episode something of just kind of a laying out how things are going to go. We know that especially in law enforcement and law enforcement community, oftentimes there's a lot of misinformation or people just don't know. And so education's always been a big deal to me. What kind of brought this to life is a column that I used to write for the Paragould Daily Press when I worked for the PD. And, I would pick a law and I would explain the nuances of that law and what was against the law, and explained it to the best of my ability. And, a lot of people found that very helpful. And so recounting that, I thought, hey, we're in the new age of podcasts and video podcasts and whatnot. What a better way to take that information and bring it into what we are used to now, and that's podcasts in general. So going forward, what I see us doing is you'll find that I'll have an occasional guest. Sometimes they'll be here in my office. Sometimes they will be joining me from a remote location. And we'll talk about whatever the topic is that is the topic of the day, or the topic that coincides with a special guest's role in government or law or what have you. So I look for that to be educational experiences. There'll be times it'll just be me, just like it is today, and we'll discuss different Arkansas laws, or something that maybe the topic of concern, scammers, internet safety, computer safety, things like that. And so we'll work on those as needed. And I may have a special guest that includes one of my detectives that deals with internet crimes or computer crimes. And so my hope is that we can give you guys some information and educate you on what to do or what not to do in situations that could be harmful to you if proper care wasn't taken. Something that I really want to address concerning this podcast is this is not going to be used to discuss cases. This is not going to be used to play videos or anything like that have anything to do with our work here. This is strictly going to be an educational, entertaining, I hope. Most of you know that I have a pretty decent sense of humor. And as you can imagine, we can't always just be straight-laced serious in this business. It would kill us. That's just putting it mildly. And so, we may tell stories. We may tell funny anecdotal stories from our pasts. And again, that'll be me playing off of whatever guest I have at the time. And so we want this to be fun. We want this to be informative. We want it to be educational. And so that's just kind of how I see this podcast going. I'm all about transparency. I'm all about putting information out there that concerns you, the citizens here in Greene County. So this is going to be in addition to our Facebook page. We're still posting on that. We'll continue to post on that. This will just be a special segment. I'm shooting for once a week. Just to be candid, it's taken me a while to get this one to you, just for the fact that it's just been super busy. And we'll get into that even. We'll get into the daily goings on here and how this is like running a small city here. When you incorporate the jail, you incorporate the employees, there are just so many facets of things that go on to running the sheriff's office and the jail that most of you don't know. And so as I've kind of been crafting this and trying to get it figured out how we're going to go, I'm going to take the opportunity to maybe pull the curtain back a little bit on this office, this jail, this operation, this organization, and kind of share with you what all goes on in the day-to-day operations of a huge facility like this. Keep in mind that we are the 5th largest jail in the state of Arkansas. And I know that's like, wow, that's Greene County, the 5th largest jail. The voters back in 2013, 2012, when they approved the sales tax to build the new jail that became operational in 2014, the planners, the Blue Ribbon Committee for that, the Jail Blue Ribbon Committee, they researched, they did all the things, and they did all the right things to prepare Greene County for the future. And because of that, we have ended up with the facility that we have, the capacity that we have. So overcrowding, like in a lot of my fellow sheriff's counties, is not an issue here. And so, those are things that looking way ahead in the future has paid off. So those are things that we'll talk about. We'll talk about how the jail is set up and how, we're in a lot better shape than most of the counties. There are about 4 or 5 counties in the state that do not have a jail. And there's a lot of days that I really envy them. But those sheriffs, I give them a hard time all the time. But the vast majority of the counties in the state have a county jail. And some of them may literally only hold a total of 20 people. And I couldn't fathom running a facility with only 20 beds and trying to figure out where I'm going to put everybody, because those jails are overcrowded. Those jails are operating above capacity because they have no choice. So we'll get into that, and we'll get into how a new prison is important for sheriffs across the state of Arkansas. And so I know that's a touchy subject right now in the state, particularly in Northwest Arkansas, as far as placement of that new prison. And so we can speak on the sheriff's side of things about how important another facility is. Today, we're holding statewide about 2,000 state sentenced inmates between all the counties that have jails. 2,000 belong to the Arkansas Department of Corrections. And so obviously we're holding these inmates because they don't have anywhere to put them. And so we are getting reimbursed for that. Again, that'll be a conversation we'll have in the future, just to kind of educate you on how all that works. I mentioned Facebook earlier. Most of you will notice and have noticed that the commenting has been turned off. We live in a very divisive time right now. And when people criticize me or my department, I'm used to that. It doesn't, in fact, 90% of the time I don't read the comments. But all it does is it just seems like it just makes things more divisive. We're never going to be 100% liked by anybody. And I could say the same thing when I still work for the police department, or just insert any law enforcement agency anywhere in the United States, and you're not going to have 100% approval ratings. It's just not going to happen. It's just where we're at in society currently, and you know, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but we know in these roles that we're not going to be liked 100%. You know, I'd lie to you if there wasn't sometimes that I woke up and just looked at the ceiling and you know, thought maybe I should have went to the fire academy or something like that. But I'm not wired to be a fireman. Kudos to them for the job that they do, because I couldn't do it. And most of my fireman friends would say, I can't do what you do. So we're a mutual agreement that we do what we do for a reason, because we couldn't do the other. We post informational things, car accidents, arrests, and we do that because from a media standpoint, you guys that look at our roster every day, you're not the only one that does that. The media does that as well. And so their job, somebody is assigned to scope the jail roster, and they will look for certain things, certain severe charges, you know, and whatnot, and they will request the probable cause affidavit. So basically the statement of facts that got that person arrested and put in jail. And so for us as law enforcement agencies, a lot of times it's just as easy to basically regurgitate the probable cause affidavit and announce that arrest, because most media outlets look at department Facebook pages for media releases. Now, that's something I started at the Paragould PD when I was still a captain there, still lieutenant there, and I was carried forward with me to my role as the sheriff. That's a way of putting information out there, and all the media sources get the same information at the same time. And instead of, you know, me taking 3 or 4 phone calls or 3 or 4 emails that I'm having to stop what I'm doing and regurgitate that information 3 or 4 times, I just do it once and put it out there. So knowing especially the types of charges that they are eyeballing when they look at the jail roster, it's a whole lot easier for me, a lot more time management. For time management reasons, I do it just immediately once that probable cause affidavit is signed and becomes public record. I just beat them to the punch, if you will, just from a time management standpoint. It just works out easier and better. And again, it fosters transparency and just gets it out of the way. And so the Facebook page, that's where I put that information. Obviously, as of late, the negativity, the sometimes politicizing things is just, all it does is makes us more divisive. It doesn't bother me one bit to be criticized. It doesn't. And I'll be the first to tell you if I felt like we've done something wrong or what have you, I'll be the first one to admit that. But I don't want to foster that negative atmosphere on something that I've posted. So instead of, because by federal law, by Supreme Court ruling, I can't be deleting comments that are negative in nature. Now, there are ways that I can delete comments if there's a threat or something else of severity. But in my career running either the Paragould PD page when I was still there or this one, I've never deleted a comment or a post just because, people are entitled to whatever they want to say. When it starts crossing the line and it starts affecting individuals, starts affecting employees, it was just a lot of different factors that I took into consideration, consulting with our legal counsel. And I just said, listen, I would just like to take the commenting ability off completely so nobody can comment. It doesn't matter who they are, and just use it as an informational page to push out the information. And obviously we're legally able to do that. Now, those posts are still shareable. So share away, and you can share it on your page, and you can say whatever you want to say. That you're more than within your right to do so, and not a problem. But I want to keep our department page as an informational page for you. If there's a scam going on, I want you to know about it. If there's a bad crash that's involved, a major thoroughfare that's going to be closed, I want you to know that, because you're going to possibly be traveling that direction. So I want you to know that there's going to be a delay. And so there are a lot of things that I want to put out to keep you informed, to keep you updated on things. But doing so without the comments will make it a whole lot less polarizing politically, or just anti anything for that matter. Again, as law enforcement officers, we're used to being criticized. We're used to not being liked. That's nothing new. But I did want to bring up the reason behind the taking the comments off. It just gets way out of hand, and that just doesn't bode well for anybody. And all it does is causes more and more division. And so that's not what I'm about. I want to make sure that we serve to the best of our ability and put out information for your knowledge. And again, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. This takes time out of my day. In fact, I'm doing this on a Sunday afternoon, recording this podcast. So I'm up here when my wife and kids are off work or out of school, and doing this so that we can foster that back and forth, or so that we can foster this information sharing, and so that I can connect with you from an educational standpoint, but also as your sheriff. And so that's kind of what I wanted to drive home, was this is going to be used as educational. We're still going to utilize Facebook. We're going to post these to Facebook, the links to the YouTube channel Behind the Badge Greene County, and just kind of go through the formatting or how I see this going. Like I said, I want this to be informative. I want it to be educational. And I want it to be entertaining. We may be on here with a guest and cutting up a little bit and sharing some funny stories or whatnot. I've been doing this for 28 years. And so obviously I have seen a lot. I've heard a lot. So some things I can share, some things I can't. But regardless, I want to be able to have that connection. And I want to make sure that we put out a good product for you, just like from a department standpoint. I want this to be a department that you're proud of, that you are doing the best that they can do and doing things the right way, even when it's unpopular or when it's unappreciated by some. That's just the way this works. I've found in my time as an officer, not just as the sheriff, but just as an officer in general, that everybody wants you to do the right thing until that right thing affects them, and then they're not so happy about that. And so that's the rock and the hard spot that we get into, and that's okay. That's what we signed up for, and that's what we will continue to do. We will persevere, but we're not going to compromise doing the right thing, even when it's hard. So anyhow, I thank everybody for tuning in to this first podcast episode. I hope to have the next one. I hope to have a special guest to discuss whatever it is that special guest's specialty is, and hopefully you'll gain some even more knowledge after that episode. And again, we'll just build on that as time goes on. We'll discuss various laws. We'll just discuss all sorts of things that are law enforcement related, but not specific to a case or to a person or anything of that nature. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. I'm not as entertaining as Grady Judd is, Sheriff Grady Judd down in Florida. That is not going to be these podcasts or these episodes. So just to be clear, that it's just going to be it's going to be educational and hopefully fun. So thank you for tuning into this short introduction, and I look forward to producing another one soon to bring to you. God bless. Have a great day.